Good evening, everyone. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor McGlasser?
Present.
Councilwoman Campbell?
Present.
Councilman Tempori?
Here.
Councilman Ruthven?
Here.
Councilwoman Batti?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. We had executive session. No votes were taken. And let's see, we're going to start off tonight with the local, to introduce the local law for veterans tax exemption. Nancy, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, great.
This is a local law just to set in place what our maximum exemptions are for veterans. And it really isn't, we're not actually increasing the exemption, we're just putting into the law the practice that we've been using, just to make sure everything is, consistent. That's the best I can do on this one.
That's a fair way to
Yeah.
put it. Just so everybody knows, we've been practicing a practice. We've been giving the exemptions to veterans for quite some time. I don't even know how long.
Years.
Who knows how long? But it didn't match what was actually in our local law. So we're just making the local law match what we've already been giving, and we're giving the better. We didn't take away from the veterans. They're making sure they get the most exemptions that they can get. And I do believe, and if I'm not right, that we're going with following what the county's lead is on this
That's right.
also. Yeah, because
And
they were
aren't
giving a
we
better.
getting rid of the 10-year limit?
I don't remember
Look at the
that part.
bottom, 10-year limitation period. I know that we are not taking anything away from anyone there, because you were concerned about that, Jorma.
Yeah,
Correct.
you're right,
But-
Supervisor, we are
Yes.
taking that out.
So
So there's no more.
there was a
10-year.
10-year limitation. We're
Yes.
taking the 10-year limitation out.
Okay.
So. Okay. I don't think, do you have a resolution for this? To make it, we have to make a, do you have anything on this?
Do we have
What
to,
do-
do we have to make a
We have to
motion to go into public hearing, correct?
We have to set up,
We're gonna,
To set a public
we're
hearing.
just introducing the local one, and we're gonna set a public hearing.
okay.
Want me to read this whole thing? It's not that long. Unless you want to give me
Unless
the,
you want me to gloss over the changes, or do you want to read the whole?
yeah, I'll read the whole thing. It's not that long. I would like to introduce a local law to be enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Kent, Putnam County, New York, as follows. Section 1, Chapter 67, entitled Taxation. Chapter 4, entitled Veterans Tax Exemption. Subsections 67-12A5 and subsections 67-12B shall be amended as follows. 67-12A5, maximum exemption established. A, qualifying residential real property shall be exempt to the extent of 15% of the assessed value of such property, provided, however, that such exemption shall not exceed the lesser of $54,000. It was $27,000 on the old way it was written, but we've been giving $54,000. Or the product of $54,000 multiplied by the latest state equalization rate for the town of Kent. B, in addition to the exemption provided by subsection A5A of this section, where the veteran served in a combat theater or combat zone of operations as documented by the award of a United States campaign ribbon or service medal, qualifying residential real property also shall be exempt from taxation to the extent of 10% of the assessed value of such property, provided, however, that such exemption shall not exceed the lesser of $36,000 or the product of $36,000 multiplied by the latest state equalization rate for the town of Kent. C, in the addition to the exemption provided by subsection A5A and B of this section, where a veteran received a compensation rating from the United States Veterans Administration because of service-connected disability, qualifying residential real property shall be exempt from taxation to the extent of the product of the assessed value of such property multiplied by 50% of the veteran's disability rating, provided, however, that such exemption shall not exceed the lesser of 180,000 or the product of 180,000 multiplied by the latest state equalization rate for the town of Kent. B, Cold War veterans exemptions. In accordance with the provisions of Section 458B of the real property tax law of the state of New York, residential real property owned by veterans who rendered military service to the United States of America during the Cold War shall be exempt from real property taxation in accordance herewith. The maximum exemption allowable from the town of Kent real property taxation pursuant to Section 458B of the real property tax law of the state of New York shall be 15% of the assessed value of such property, not to exceed 54,000 of the product, or 54,000 multiplied by the latest state equalization rate of the assessing unit, or in the case of special assessing unit, the latest class ratio, whichever is less. The exemption authorized herein and pursuant to New York real property tax law shall apply to qualifying owners of qualifying real property for as long as they remain qualifying owners, without regard to the 10-year limitation period for said exemption set forth in New York real property tax law, Section 458B, subdivision 2C3. 2, in addition to the exemption provided by subsection B1 of this section, where the Cold War veteran received a compensation rating from the United States Department of Veterans Affairs or from the United States Department of Defense because of a service-connected disability, qualifying residential real property shall be exempt from taxation to the extent of the product of the assessed value of such property multiplied by 50% of the Cold War veteran disability rating, provided, however, that such exemption shall not exceed 180,000 or the product of 180,000 multiplied by the latest state equalization rate for the assessing unit, or in the case of a special assessing unit, the latest class ration, whichever is less. Section 2, severability. If any part or provision of this local law or the application hereof to any person or circumstance be judged invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, such judgment shall be confined in its operation to the part or provision or application directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment shall have been rendered, and shall not affect or impair the validity of the remainder of this local law or the application hereof to other persons or circumstances. And the town board of the town of Kent hereby declares that it would have passed this local law or the remainder hereof had such invalid application or invalid provision been apparent. Section 3, effective date. This local law shall take effect upon filing in the office of New York State Secretary of State in accordance with Section 27 of the Municipal Home Rule Law. So that's it.
Is everyone still with us?
Yeah, that was long. It didn't look that long.
You did a great job.
I think our
Right.
assessor indicated that the Cold War veteran exemption actually would be an improvement,
Yes.
and
that's-
that puts it on par with other veterans.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we'd have to set a public
Set a
hearing.
public hearing for June.
So we need the resolution there that introduces the local law and it sets a public hearing.
So you got, now you gotta read the new one.
I'll write down
There's
how much.
one notice there of the public hearing notice, but there's one that introduces it as local law and it's have a blank number.
I'm out of order.
First sheet.
I don't have it.
What I read is the
Oh.
what I read is the very first sheet. I
Maybe
don't
this is
have
it.
that.
Public notice is here. Is it the amendments to Chapter 67 of the Kent Town Code?
Yeah. I think-
Public notice is hereby given. There's been.
No.
No? Okay.
That's the actual.
Oh,
notice.
wait. Be it resolved that an amendment of the Kent Town Code is hereby, no?
Introduced?
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, I'm going to say you, by Councilman Rufin, as introductory local law blank of the year 2022 before the Town Board of the Town of Kent and the County of Putnam and the State of New York, and be it further resolved that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law, which is attached hereto, be laid upon the desk of each member of the board, and be it further resolved, the Town Board will hold a public hearing on said proposed local law at the Town Hall in the Town of Kent, New York, at 7 p.m. on June 7th.
June 7th?
Okay. And be it further resolved that the town clerk publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the town of Kent of said public hearing at least 5 days prior thereto. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. We're all good?
Yes.
Okay. Our next item on our agenda is the stormwater presentation. I invite Bruce Barber up.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Town Supervisor, members of the Town Board, Madam Town Clerk, Madam Town Attorney, and members of the public. It's a great pleasure to come before you this evening just to go over the annual stormwater report. The board will recall that this is a requirement to be sent in every year by no later than June 1st to document compliance with our MS4, our municipal separate storm sewer system permit we hold with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm going to be reading off to you some numbers, which are basically a summary of the report. But before I do, I just want to explain that these numbers represent the really very hard work that is done throughout the year by the various departments in the town, including this town board, the planning board secretary's office, the building inspector, the highway department, Lake Carmel Parks District, and Parks and Recreation as well. These are the people that are doing the hard work to ensure that we're in compliance with the stormwater report and their stormwater reporting requirements. At the end, if the board feels it's appropriate, you may authorize the town supervisor to sign the annual report, and that would then again need to be in DEC's hands by no later than June 1st. Okay? So basically, the way that the permit is structured is it is separated into 6 separate components. I'm going to go over very briefly each one. The first component is called public education. This has to do with just getting the word out as to what stormwater is, answering questions that people might have in terms of why is stormwater important, et cetera. And so basically, the report format asks for how many construction operators were trained during the period involved. There were 2 operators. We had 122 attendees at public events and approximately 54 printed materials such as brochures and handouts that were disseminated to the public. You're going to notice from years past these numbers are a little lower. It's reflective of the COVID conditions that we just went through. So the first 2 minimum measures, public education and public involvement, are going to be somewhat lower than what we've seen in the past because of that. Minimum measure number 2 is public involvement. We had approximately 395 attendees at community meetings. We had 150 attendees at stakeholder meetings. These are meetings where stormwater or erosion sediment controls or clearing or those types of elements are going to be discussed. The fact that this annual report is being presented this evening and is on the town website also is part of the public participation as well, because again, after my discussion, the public is encouraged to ask questions, et cetera, afterwards. Minimum measure 3 is illicit discharges. These are elements where we have stormwater that is carrying some type of pollutant that is being directly discharged into receiving waters. That could be a stream or a lake or a wetland or something like that. The building inspector and the highway superintendent do the yeoman's work on this particular item. We had 6 illicit discharges that were detected during the reporting period, and all 6 have been reported to be corrected. Minimum measure 4 is construction site inspections. This has to do with once construction starts on a site and the soil is being moved around, graded, et cetera, trying to keep the erosion on the site, not traveling into receiving waters. Every site that has more than 5,000 square feet of disturbance is inspected at least once. The inspection process is part of the planning board approval process of over 5,000 square feet. And so we are in compliance with the requirements, which are heightened, by the way, from normal DEC requirements because we were in the DEP, City of New York watershed. Okay, so that's 5,000 square feet threshold, has to do with more of the DEP. Minimum measure number 5 is post-construction management practices. These are the areas that you see filling with water around Lake Carmel or out in front of Town Hall here that capture and treat stormwater rather than allowing it to directly discharge into the receiving waters. This is something that both Lake Carmel Park District works on, as well as Parks and Recreation and the Highway Department, all in tandem. There were 2 filters that were inspected and cleaned, 70 open channels, and 8 wet ponds, all maintained during the reporting period. Minimum measure number 6 is good housekeeping for municipal facilities. 15 acres of parking lots were swept, 216 road miles were swept, 550 catch basins were inspected and cleaned as necessary, and 10 post-construction practices were inspected and maintained. I'm happy to report that based upon the results of what we've been able to accomplish, the town is in compliance currently with its MS4 permit requirements, and I encourage the town board to authorize the town supervisor to sign the document. But again, this is open for public comment if the board wishes. Any questions?
Anyone have comments? No? Any
Just-
public?
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
one, I'm just curious for my own education. Under number 3, it says percentage, approximate number and percentage of outfalls mapped. I saw that number 550 in other places. So does the outfall include, what is outfall?
So an outfall is an actual discharge pipe that's going from typically a catch basin or a stormwater pond or some type of structure and directly into the receiving water, whether it would be a lake or a wetland stream, something like
Great,
that.
thanks.
All of that mapping was required several permits ago using GPS and GIS to create this map system for use by the town. So all of the outfalls, to our knowledge, have been mapped, and that's why that's listed as 100%.
And so somebody went to all 550 of those.
That would have been me.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
It's impressive. Thank you.
sure. Anything else? Any public comment? Okay.
No?
All right, well, I thank you very much again for the opportunity to be here, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the supervisor to sign the MS4 report.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. The next item we have on the agenda is an addition to our employee handbook. We don't have anything for when an employee leaves the town as far as an exit procedure, so we want to just add this subsection into our handbook that basically just says that they have to transfer any contacts that they have, passwords, they have to hand back ID cards, fobs, keys, any credit cards or store cards that they may have, and that we will be taking away all their website access, email access. It's just basically so that the town still has everything that we need, and to make sure that we get everything back that is the town's property. And we don't have anything currently in the handbook. So I don't know if any town board members have discussion on this? No? Any public comment? No? Is everyone good with it?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
We really need this, so. Does anyone want to read the resolution?
I'll do it. I make a motion to adopt the resolution approving revisions to the Town of Kent Employee Handbook. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Kent adopted an employee handbook by resolution on December 29, 2003, as revised to May 21, 2013, which sets forth the town's personnel policies and practices. And whereas a certain revision to the employee handbook has been proposed to amend Section 400, entitled Employee Matters, at subsection 410, Separation from Employment. A full and complete copy of the proposed amendment is annexed hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And whereas the town board wishes to adopt the aforementioned revision to the employee handbook, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent does hereby adopt and approve the annexed amendment to the employee handbook, and be it further resolved that a copy of the revised employee handbook shall be distributed to all town of Kent employees, elected officials, and other town personnel defined therein within 30 days of this resolution. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I hereby make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item is the Lake Carmel Community Center. Councilman Roosevelt and myself have met with the Board of Directors from the Community Center, and we've gone over what we expect of them and what they expect from us, and we are ready to appoint them back to the Community Center Board as well as advertise for new members. So, do you have anything you want to say?
Nope, that sums it up pretty well.
Okay. Any other comments? Public?
I just had a question about this. Does the resolution, I'm reading it quick, it does, so it's the appointment and the
And the
advertising in one
advertisement.
resolution?
And they're 5-year, Lana informed me today, they're 5-year terms. So I don't know if we want to stagger them.
We can,
Lana suggested staggering.
Well, in case they all leave at the same time, you need somebody with some kind of direction, usually.
Good for continuity to do that. You could make some of the terms be 5 years and some be 3, for example.
Okay, all right. You want to just pick and choose?
yeah. What'd you say, it was a 5-year term?
Yes.
All right, so let's give,
Rock, paper,
Yes.
scissors?
You have to come up to the microphone, but yes, you can.
We could do rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
How many,
Yeah.
how many members is the board to have?
They can have 7.
7.
Hello.
I'm Jeannie. I'm on the vice chair of the Lake Carmel Advisory Board Committee, and I was just with regard to the Lake Carmel Community Center. We do have it as part of our master plan in the next agenda. So I'm requesting that maybe before a decision is totally made, that you hear the arguments that we might put forth regarding the community center and board, if that's a possibility.
we can listen to what that,
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
If we do go forward with this resolution, one thing I think we should add is how many other vacancies there are to fill. 'Cause
There's a
we
total
have 4 members appointed here, so
7, right? Isn't there a total of
So
7?
it's
So
three
3.
vacancies.
Mhm. So we just changed the bottom to advertise for applications for remaining 3 vacancies.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you want to hold off then until, and we'll let Walter come up and,
We can
okay.
do it after.
Okay. Our next item is the Lake Carmel Master Plan. So I invite Walter Recker, who is the chairman of the Lake Carmel Board.
Good evening, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. We were going to do a presentation, but couldn't coordinate on the screen, so got some hard copies made up, and as luck would have it, there's a bit of an issue there as well. I know Councilman Ruthven will have some fun with this, but nonetheless.
I would do 3% and 5%.
Okay.
Thank you.
They're in reverse, so if you would, just read them
Thank you.
from back to front.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is fancy.
So Walter, do you
have to read-
have one if someone comes in and wants to see it?
I have some extra,
Okay.
and I have more here.
Least one on me. Sounds like they're precious. I don't need anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Start in the back.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So, I'd like to just start with just a brief comment from our advisory board and who we are, and get into what we've put together tonight. So, we're going to cover a bunch of different things. We have not had a mission statement, so we've created one. Typically, they come with bylaws. Ours did not include one. So we thought that was top important. I had a meeting earlier today. I'm on the Putnam County EDC board as well, and we finished that. So I'm mission-oriented, I guess. But we're going to go through our goals and objectives, along with some projects that we've either recommended or have expanded upon, along with a schedule and requests for support and then a summary. So on the Who We Are page, I think I'd like to just take a moment, make sure everybody understands that we've been operating now with a full advisory board for going on, I guess, 4 or 5 months. It consists of 9 people from all walks of life and from all around the perimeter of Lake Carmel. We always thought that was important because, you know, you talk to neighbors and you get different perspectives from everybody else. So we work really hard at pulling that together. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, I guess, I don't know. We have quite a range. But I think that's, as we start, it's where we come from when we work hard to represent some views of the community. So our mission is to gather, review, and recommend improvements to our lake and the surrounding park area. Our board acts in an advisory capacity, solicits input from residents and the development recommendations shared with the Town of Kent Board liaisons for consideration by the full town board. Our purpose is to provide input and recommendations to the town board, working closely with our liaisons, lake manager, and other town and regional stakeholders on projects and policy, and our board meets every month. Our volunteerism includes research and recommend projects, identify and support funding for grants, share advice on park district staffing, which is part of our bylaws, which some people aren't aware of, planning and support for park district events, and coordinate with departments on different programs that we offer. Next page, for those not as familiar with the beach locations are, we put some of that data together from the CSLAP, and no, I'm not looking at anyone in particular. But these presentations are for you to keep, and we'll leave it at that.
Keep it in your back pocket.
The master plan, the goals that we have overall, this is long-term and its recommendations. It's really to enhance our residents' access to amenities and the enjoyment of the lake area. And they really fall into three areas: beaches, recreation, and other activities. Beach and lakefront renovation, and also improvements to lake water quality and a district property. So that's what we see as our goals. We're very pleased that over the last year and a half to 2 years, and I have to give credit to the town board liaisons prior to Supervisor McGlasson assuming her position and being voted in. We've worked closely with the liaisons to get a lot done. The renovated basketball court at Beach 2, the Veterans Memorial Beautification, which the veterans that any of us speak to are just thrilled at it. It really looks great. Beach 3 renovation, which was completed 2 years ago. The community center, we have recommended some fence and more outdoor recreation there. Having porta-johns out more often around the season. And that came from residents. You know, this doesn't all come from us. That particular recommendation came from people we see all the time around there. And then the extension of the walking path and the review of that. Next couple pages just show some pictures of that. That I think really do capture the spirit of what we've been able to do. Police Chief Owens has a really good shot over there doing his head fake. You know, we got you on camera. I think you got called for traveling on that, though, didn't you? Yeah, I suppose. You got some influence on the rest. I happen to, and I brought this with me, when we get into more recommendations, this really comes, any of the good we talked about with those 5 different programs, it comes from this kind of thing. It's from people working together, highway, town board, people that are here, just coming together to pitch in. It's really not any more simple than that. So when good people disagree, you work things out. We do appreciate our role in the community and hope that the town board does as well, that we are here to recommend. We also take other parts of the community, obviously, and offer events, but we understand our role. We hope you understand and respect ours in terms of what we represent. I mean, a town board meeting or advisory board meeting usually doesn't happen unless 70 to 80% of whoever's there is part of our board. So we are very active, we're all volunteers. We all have a lot of other things going on in our lives. We really are here for the right reasons. So, our high-level recommendations, again, and this, again, to make clear, this came from the urging of Councilman Ruthven, who said, put together a master plan, and let's talk about it. And it's not about all nuts and bolts per se that we go over in our meetings. We're starting to move past that and come into our recommendations. But at a high level, our goals for a master plan, one is to work a lot more closely with community town leaders and stakeholders. I'm disappointed we couldn't have our highway superintendent here tonight and our crew chief. At some point, we really would like to have a conversation with them. In past town boards, that seem to be frowned upon. Most of us, and all of us on the advisory board, have a really hard time understanding that because we live in the same community. We're all tax-paying residents. We see each other. We think we can walk and chew gum. You can respect someone else's role and not come across and try to lobby, for lack of a better way to put it, but at the same time have conversations. Unless or until that happens, we'll never reach our full potential. And I think it's as simple as that. It's as easy as just sitting down, having conversations, working them through. Everybody here, town board, everybody in this room tonight cares about our community. We all don't go about it the same way, but we all have that as our motivation. I think as long as it starts there, we can improve. So we really hope that we'll see more participation and engagement on that, just to have conversations. So that's the first thing. Next is to make the district more people-friendly for residents and visitors. We've had people come to some of our board meetings that have had concerns about signs up about you can't do this, you can't do that, here's the restrictions. Their concern at that meeting was interesting because they talked about other lake communities in the area and throughout New York State as well. And so we're trying to come from that standpoint and create something that's a little more people-friendly. And we'll get to that in a minute. The walking path, more recreation facilities, more beautification, more improvements that are really going to resonate with the residents. We've talked about in the past, we really want to see the old beach areas converted sooner rather than later to more park-like facilities. Currently, Beach 6, the old Beach 6, Beach 5, don't look great. People still go around them. Some people even think they're still beaches, minus a lifeguard chair. So we really need to hopefully accelerate that. We recommend highly that we do that. We need to prioritize on residents' evolving interests. One thing that's changed, people don't go to the beaches as often, right? That's why some of the beaches are closed. We have to be careful having enough beaches open to provide access to residents, but at the same time need to evolve. Again, that's another reason why the walking path is so important. Anybody that spends any time around the lake knows that's by far the most accessible and useful thing that people like to have amenities for. It also is a bit of a catch-22. If you have a really nice park, people go there. If you don't keep it up, then they won't. So that also feeds into the thinking about the beaches. Communication on rules and regulations. We are recommending signboards that have an up-to-date reflection of what our rules and regulations we worked on that you approved about a year ago. So that needs to go up. People have to see them. Get frankly, a lot of cranky people. Some of it's warranted, some of it's up to you. But there's concerns that dogs aren't taken care of. And it all starts with rules and regulations. We got that through. Signage means we can then relate to that. And then enforcement, working with the police department to do what we need to do. Again, kind of a logical, deliberate, and step-by-step approach. More awareness on safety, so that's going to be important as well. And also on who to call. Currently, including myself, I reported, I think, 3 different potential violations to the health department last year. I happen to know people there, a lot of you do as well. But if I didn't, I wouldn't know who to call. Bobby has done the same thing, and Bobby Wick in the past. It's a pretty big deal though, right? If somebody, and we talked about the Adopt-a-Pipe program, unless we have identification out there, how's anybody going to report a smell that comes up from somebody's property or some obvious leakage? You know, it's like, that's too bad, or they'll complain to their significant other, sit down, eat dinner, and get up in the morning and forget about it. So we need to do more to communicate that as well. And then we'd like to see an increase in our budget going forward. We have had the same allocation for the Lake Carmel Park Advisory budget for events for close to 5 years. This year, prices have gone up extraordinarily. That said, we still are stuck at the same level, so we really would like to see more expansion on that. So that's the high-level picture. Just want to step through next some specific recommendations. Again, some are already in progress, and we appreciate that, but just to make everybody aware. We're very pleased that we have an engineer looking at the walking path, and we've got support from our town board liaisons. We're very happy about that as a top priority. Last year's priority was probably Veterans Memorial and getting one of the beaches done. This year's certainly would be the path. And very happy to see that we can extend it. Long term, we'd like to take a hard look at extending it even further. We get a lot of conversation from people from the west side of the lake that they can't go all the way around the lake. And on the surface, they say, well, you can't do that, you can't. But there have been proposed in years past, and it's been a while now, a sidewalk down 52 leading from Carmel. Anybody remember the old, what was that, the Alaska Bridge to Nowhere thing? It was in the media, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, that they were going to put sidewalks downtown in Carmel. And the next phase, they were going to continue that through Kent. Well, here we are again. Not pretty when you consider that another town, for no particular reason, that's, I guess, obvious, gets that, we don't. But wouldn't it be awesome to have the walking path extend towards the old Beach 1 on South Lakeshore Drive, come up on the side of Towners with a barrier, and then a walkway and a sidewalk, and then connect it on West Lakeshore. Be pretty awesome. Be nice for the kids, be nice for families. Get a lot, again, reflecting the evolution of people's interests. So we'd like to see that at some point come to fruition. Not going to be easy, not going to happen tomorrow, but we think in time we can get something like that done. Some other recommendations that we have on the beaches, and as you can see in the handout, they're in pretty poor shape. 2 and 4 are shot. I know Councilman Ruthven, you and I have been out and taken a walk around the beaches and see that. And by the way, even though that fence is up at Beach 2, I saw people around there going around with the fish the other day, which is unfortunate, but just throwing that out there. But would like to see that happen. Footings we've talked about at Beach 7, fences, and also electricity for either lifeguards and or people that are possibly renting that area. Just a couple quick slides next are handouts on the beaches in particular. We know a little bit of work has started at Beach 7. Just wanted to show you up close and personal what it looks like today. Not pretty. Really in need of paint. A lot of work needs to be done. And that's the only beach available for residents on the west side. So we really think, and we're happy a little bit of work has happened there, but really hope that progress continues. At the former Beach 6, again, it's been closed now, how long we're talking about? 4 or 5 years? Maybe a little more. And it still, to some, looks like a beach half open, because the only thing that's been done is a lifeguard chair's been taken down. So we don't think it'd really take a lot, just to paint, put some signage up, a couple of benches, and you're done. So we think we can take great strides. Another reason that's important, of course, is because it's adjoining Arts on the Lake. And like the Veterans Memorial, there's only really 2 places on the lake that people from out of town come, whether it's other residents, families, and if you take pride like we all do in our community, wouldn't it be nice to make that an area of beautification rather than you want to turn the other way? Okay? So that's Beach 6. Beach 5, because of the conversion with the restaurant, we've talked about this as well. And really hoping, I know Bruce and I had talked going on 3 years ago, putting new plants and various up. We've been in good conversations with our liaison, very happy about that. We know that our hands are a bit tied with East of Hudson, but anything that can be done and accelerate that would be much appreciated. And again, it's a very visible spot to people in the community. At Beach 4, pretty much same thing as 2. No need to spend a lot of time there. Other than, again, to illustrate they're in pretty dire need of improvement. Okay. Beach 3 boat launch looks like there's some work being done down there, so we're hoping that continues. Boating, probably the second most popular access for amenities around the lake. So currently, it's very difficult to put a boat in the lake. The one at the beach, former Beach 5 shed is not in great shape, and neither is the one at Beach 3, and those are the two main ones. So currently, it's almost dangerous to try to put a boat out. So we'd like to see more done there. Beach 2 we talked about earlier. Parking lots is another area and again, this is short and long term. So last year, our crew chief collaborated with our highway superintendent and did a really nice job at Beach 7, really good. One of the few times the west side got a little more attention than the east side. By the way, I don't live on the west side, I'm there a lot. But Beach 7, they did a really good job, they just paved it on the way in. So every time it rains, they don't have these big divots, which currently we have at Beach 4, 3, and 2. And we talked earlier about converting the closed beaches into park areas. And again, it's not a lot. I think it's just a matter of allocating resources. And if it needs to be outsourced and there's a cost to that, hopefully that'll be considered. But it's really removing the sand from there. It's planting new grass, some park benches, make the fence opening a little more feasible for a typical resident, possibly a gazebo at some point, and a new fence and volleyball at Beach 5. As far as signage goes, we talked about communication earlier. Here, we're in the process of finalizing quotes and getting access and facility possibly from NYSEG. We've also had a solar review as well, of putting two new major signboards up with LED. As most of us know, cost of LEDs come down considerably. We got a quote that we could come in somewhere around $1,500 for 2 LED systems. One at Beach, one at Towners Road, and one at the intersection of 52-311. On our vision for 52-311, again, it's the most highly trafficked area in the town of Kent. I don't think that anybody would argue with that. Why not put up a new flagpole, a telescopic? We've got a lot of the research on that. We've done the legwork. Put the LED on there. We'd like to do a dedication at some point. We talked about it last week that our dear friend Dale Cusack passed away. We'd love to see, maybe by the end of the year, the flagpole up, the new signage, and a dedication for Dale. I think the town would love that. And I really think from a visibility standpoint, people would take a little more pride in the community. I really do. I really think they'd look at it a little bit differently instead of what we have now. And again, I think it's just a matter of pulling a few things together. Other than that, on new signage, I mentioned 52-311 and Towners. It's going to be a lot easier to keep it up to date. We don't get enough community interest in a lot. Our advisory board meetings are not well attended, neither are town board meetings. Wouldn't it be great if we have signage up that keeps people a little more aware, right? So we think that could be a really good upside as well. The other ones are welcome to Lake Carmel signs. These would be a reminder, that this is for Lake Carmel residents. We've gone back and forth, done the research, and we're comfortable now that we can put the right communication up around it and say, welcome to Lake Carmel, residents only. Here's what's allowed, here's where we are. Put that on the west side entrance at West Lakeshore, and on the east side, right near Veterans Memorial, the walking path in the front. So we think that'd be a good thing as well. Oh, we talked about the beach signs earlier. Okay. Bridge and dam renovations, I think we've gone through this quite a bit in our meetings. We're very happy that the engineering is underway. We're eager to see that, how that comes out, that we can then apply funds to and finally get that moving. Again, that's been a really long-term thing. So, that'll be an awesome improvement, not just for safety purposes, but also if we could extend the walkway. So we'll be excited to see that come about. New boat launches we talked about earlier. Another thing we have as a vision is to have a community garden. And a community garden would be at the intersection of Towners. So if you could envision a really nice new sign, a flagpole there, and behind it in the triangle, beautiful flowers, sunflowers. That'd be a really nice way to welcome the community. Again, pretty doable. Really, we're not talking about a ton of money. It's really a matter of putting the concept together, sketching it out, and getting it built. So other areas of beautification, we have new flower beds at each beach. We used to have a flower bed, kind of a box that went south, let's just say, at Beach 3. But again, it would be a nice amenity that we could have. We've been doing great with Trees for Tribs, and we're continuing to look to have more grants for trees. We've heard a lot from residents about garbage receptacles. Those same residents are often the ones that complain about the dogs. They're not wrong. The reality is, unfortunately, there's really three, let's call them types of people. Maybe it's politically incorrect, maybe not. Three types of people like most of us that will walk the extra step if they see a garbage receptacle and put it away. Or they'll actually put it in their car, like many of us do. Then there's the people that'll do it if it's there, but they won't if it's not. And then there's a third group, which we're never going to reach, right? But we think that if we could put receptacles at that proper spacing, that's just a logical way to go about it. And it's likely to get more people to participate. I saw one the other day where there was a couple of bottles 3 feet away from the receptacle. It's going to happen, but we call it an alley-oop when we put it right in there. All right. Beautification, we covered that with a private beach area. One of the things that continues to persist is the geese mitigation issue. A really major thing here that we're looking to change dramatically going into this year. And again, thank you for our town board liaisons for bringing it forward and approving a lake manager. It's a fabulous step forward. Everybody that we talked to is thrilled by it. And Jeannie Garbarino and Bob Ulick have led the effort for that. Jeannie's got a background in lake science, which is pretty awesome. We've been going for years and years, guessing our best. And I know there's some people that have been around a while that tell you, well, this worked, carp worked, that worked. We guessed the best we could, let's be honest. Now we have science behind it, along with people that have a motivation to care. So I think we're going to really take some major step forwards. But the things we need to know, like as soon as possible, is it a good idea to drain the lake at the end of the year? Is it good then to be able to gather the shells that are there or not? What about buffer zones? Are we doing this in coordination with our crew chief? And this is a critically important part. I know we strongly recommend having the meeting where these people come together and simply have a conversation. And not to say, berate somebody, oh, you're not doing a good job, or, we're into this, but that conversation really needs to happen. We really feel strongly about that. Have all of us sit down at a table and say, here's what we need to do to address this. It's a big concern. No one's got the answer. I keep going back to, when people who don't pay any attention, they don't know anything about algae, and they think it's a Lake Carmel thing. And I always say, Lake Champlain's huge. Lake Champlain has problems. It's not just that. So it's a matter of just pulling that information together. And again, we're thrilled that the lake manager will be a part of it. As we come to a close here, some contention, I guess, with the Lake Carmel Community Center. So with respect to that, and we mentioned at our last meeting, our board has been very dutifully deferential when it comes to the community center, despite being pressed early and often by residents on, why don't you have a voice in that? And two things. First, on behalf of us as our advisory board, we know we all share the same thing. We all want that place to improve. I hope everybody agrees. And again, let's just call it what it is. It's an ongoing embarrassment, just to have a building like that sit there and be called a community center this long. Again, it's nobody's fault per se, but let's just talk about the facts. Second, the board that's been operating, so-called there, really hasn't operated for 2 years. It's a concern to think that a board that's been largely dysfunctional at best, not open to the community for anything, unlike us, we meet every month for years. We're asked to bring reports in, and we do. To not have a say in that is concerning for us as we're representatives, as also as part of our advisory board. And again, I'm wide open to conversation on that. But we'd like to see that done along with some of the amenities that we've been talking about that we're very happy are moving forward. So before we finish up, I'd just like to maybe if we could talk more just openly about the community center. I think that the challenge there, and I'll be happy to open up to other board members, but I think the biggest challenge people have, and it's not just us, we're volunteers, is it just really doesn't seem to have leadership, frankly. We have two of the board members come to our meetings regularly. They're completely on board with things we do. They enjoy our work, they get it, they participate. So we're just wondering if there's a way that our board can have a role with the community center board. I think that's where we'd like to just at some point have consideration. If not tonight, if you go forward, then you'll be considering a recommendation and possibly moving past it. Completely get that, and that's just the way things work. But we also think it's important that we air the concern. So if we could talk about that.
You want to finish, or you want to talk about it now?
The only other 2 points we had really were some of the recreation that we've gone through in the past. So we've submitted that already. The other ones are annual for maintenance around the lake. The key component there, and I don't want to gloss over that, is that we hope going forward in 2023 that there is a maintenance schedule that's submitted and it's public, so people can know that in March, signs are being made, benches are being cleaned up, plans are being made for new work being done on projects. In June, before festivities for July 4th, this is being done. So we'd like to see that as well, if at all possible. And then following our conversation, we'll get to next steps. How's that? Is that okay?
So you want to talk about the community center?
Please.
board?
All right, we met with the community center last, Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember. We were meeting like every night on something last week. I think it opened our eyes up a little bit to what the community center board of directors, not an advisory board, is. Some of the members were on it when it was established. They told us what their roles were. They told us what their frustrations were over the years. And we told them what our frustrations were as a town board and the lack of public meetings and, everything that we hear, we express that. And they were very eager to get started anew and engage it and open it up to the public. And we really, truly got a better idea of what their role was when they were established. And I think that's something that I learned coming out of that meeting, is what their role and their goal was. I felt good after the meeting and confident that these people are dedicated to that building and that property to enough extent that Supervisor McGlasson and I were going to recommend to the town board tonight to reappoint the 4 members that are still interested in being on it and advertise for new members so that it does become an active board of directors and they can go back to trying to do what they were doing before with the limitations that we have with the building situation now, but there's still some potential on the property that we can continue to function. We explained to them thoroughly the limitations and problems that we are going through with the building. You know, we don't really have the clarity on which way we're going with it yet because all the reports haven't been submitted, but we promised them that once that's in at a very public and open forum, we will discuss our options moving forward and let them have input as well as the rest of the public on what our options are financially and physically with the structure over there. So that's where we stand on it as of right now. Certainly, once we have established these meetings as public meetings, and they said that would be fine, and that's how we're going to run them from now on, members from the advisory board are welcome to attend and give input, just like any of the rest of the public would be allowed to give input. Obviously 2 of the members on there do attend your meetings quite regularly. We did discuss the option of merging them, and the 2 that attend your meetings were across the board. Nobody on that side wanted to merge with the advisory board. So we told them that we would give it a shot to get it back to what it was originally, functioning as a public functioning board of directors, because that's what their title is, and see how it goes from there. I've never seen it function. I've been on the board for 3.5 years now almost. I've never seen it function. I've never been invited to one of their meetings. I've never seen minutes. I've never seen an agenda, and I said that point blank to them. And I feel like we will moving forward. They thanked us for the interaction with them. They were very happy. It says it's the most engagement they've had in many, many years with anybody from the town board, and they hope they can keep that up also, because they felt like they were being ignored on our end also. Any other questions on it?
Well, a comment back if I could. So if we were, as a town, working with a vendor that had a track record that people didn't report on or weren't functioning, and we've given an example, in fact, of that a couple of years ago, the people we hired to do the adling, and then you actually did it yourself. Our concerns were, I think, had merit, because we wouldn't want the town money to be spent on something that somebody said they would do and then they didn't do. I don't know how the rest of our board feels or the public at large, but
So
I don't.
I know
I
where
could
you're going,
finish.
and I'd like to
Okay,
just jump
go ahead.
in right now, if I could. They showed up with a lot of records. They showed up with a lot of books that showed they had meetings. As last November, they held the meeting. And they did show all the events that they were having up until the building was closed. And their penny, what do they call? I don't know, penny
Penny
socials,
social.
and it fit more into what their direction as the board of directors is over there.
And they had a lot of research for
And they
things.
had a lot of times where they could show us where they had requested stuff from the town board on fixing the fences and taking down the badminton or the handball things, and it wasn't getting addressed from previous, boards. So they were trying, and they're kind of the same frustration you have sometimes, and they just weren't getting responses from it. I don't want to say that they weren't functioning. They just didn't have a facility to function in for the last couple of years, and they weren't getting the responses when they were, trying to run as a board of directors over there. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yes.
When we have differences of opinion between our board and the town board, we talk about them. We meet really regularly. We work really hard on behalf of our community to make sure that our clerk puts an email out, that it's up on the signboards, that it's out there. I don't know of anybody in our community, and I'm not saying I'd talk to everybody, but I don't know anybody in our community that knows anything about what has gone on there or not. Even bad decisions they might have made, which you just said yourself, there's no reporting on it. Our liaisons are really good at communicating. When things don't eventually go the way we recommend them, at least we know that we presented them clearly. We met, we dialogued, and then we either continued or not. Now, again, we're gonna even improve further on that going forward. But I would just say, I'll say as a resident, I'd be disappointed at your decision, but I understand it, and I think that there are possibilities to improve it. On behalf of our board, I can say that our board, as a majority, feels we should have a role. And the reason, again, being that the community center's in our backyard. They have events there, we have events. We're open to working with them. And we're just doing it just because that's what the residents are pressing us for. Again, obviously respect the decision, but on record, I'd say we'd be disappointed, and we'll hope for the best. Okay, so I'm going to respect that.
I'll go on record and say I'll be disappointed if they don't function as we discussed them functioning, because we've given.
We had a really good discussion.
We've given them our expectations, and now it'll be on them to move forward with it. But I'm willing to give them a shot.
But also in the past, they had no one.
They didn't.
They
did not know.
They
that.
had a liaison, and the liaison was not assisting them, nor were they passing along the information to the rest of the board. So they were sort of stuck, where if you had been if you sent stuff to Chris and myself, and it ended there, and we never talked about it with you, and we never passed it along to the rest of the board.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think they deserve a chance.
Okay.
They're very passionate about the property. They really are. And you know some of them very well, and you know their passion for that property.
Yeah,
And when we discussed our options moving forward, you could see the real emotion over that property in there. But they understand the situation. They really do.
Look, as a resident, I'd be thrilled. I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised. I really do. That's what counts. Last year, we had a great event over there that Jared organized for town of Kent, and it was a tremendous turnout. The place was great. Everybody said, geez, we need to do more of that. So, good. Thank you. All right, in closing, on next steps, just to reiterate, we really would like to see if we can get a meeting with the crew chief, clerk, liaisons, and just have a sit down and say, here's where we are, here's where we hope to be based on recommendations, and let's just have an open conversation about it. The outcomes could be a disagreement, and that'll be fine, but at least we'll have exhausted a logical way to go about this. So we hope that happens. We've already done our recommendations on the project budget, so you have the majority of those. We'll hope to help with any other grants that take place in the future, that we can help support. Certainly with the lake manager, we want to make sure that comes about so it's coherent and fits in with where we want to be. Work orders, we already have those out, and we're gonna keep cultivating input, and all we're gonna do is share with you going forward, as we always have, our unvarnished opinions and thoughts and people that come to us, and we really would appreciate, and we do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to thank the Lake Carmel Park Advisory Board members that are here at night, and the ones that aren't here tonight for the presentation. It was actually pretty nice looking at the pictures and stuff.
Very impressive.
You did a nice job putting it together. I'd like to make one comment on it, if you don't mind, and I don't mean to be beat a dead horse on this, but a lot of these recommendations, as you know, are things that we are currently involved in, working on, waiting for FEMA on, and waiting for funding on, waiting for grant money on, but a lot of these things are in the works. The general maintenance stuff, I agree with you, there's a lot of things in here we can talk to the crew chief and work on getting a schedule of trying to knock off, but a lot of the bigger project things are already in the works. The boat launches, the parking lot, the walking path, the dam, you know, all those things. The bulkheads, I can go on, and most of these things are things that we've discussed over and over again, and we got engineering either working on, or we're waiting for FEMA on, or we're waiting for grant response on, or we already got grant money and we're waiting for the engineering reports on. So I don't want it to look like all this is stuff that, you know, has to get done. It's a lot of it is in the process. And we do take your recommendations very seriously. One of the big ones this year is hiring more lifeguards and trying to keep more beaches open. I didn't really notice that in there, but you know, your recommendation of staffing was important to us, and we took it where we didn't really think it was necessary. Kind of at first, we really took it seriously and said, you know, they're right. They should get as many lifeguards as we can down there, and we've been pushing it. By the way, we're still advertising for lifeguards for Lake Carmel.
I got 2 applications today.
There you go. So it's working. We got a lot of applications, and we got a lot of people signed up for the lifeguarding course this year, and we're looking forward to having more accessibility on the beaches. But thank you again for the presentation. Anybody else?
I just got one thing Walt had brought up, that a lot of the presentation, he talked about beautification, and I'm the liaison for the beautification committee along with Walt's on the committee. And I see the same thing as, you know, you were bringing up in school. The same people are doing, you know, literally everything. And it's a, you know, testament to your love of Lake Carmel and the town of Kent. I mean, we gotta, I think what I'm trying to get to is we have to somehow open up the idea of volunteerism to everybody else to get them involved, because you're right. I remember growing up here. My good friend lived on right up from, it was the Jewish Center at the time, and we would go to everybody would meet at the beach, and we'd always meet at the Steel Deck Bridge, and I always got the beaches numbered wrong too, but now thank you for the map, I won't forget them. But we hung out at the beach. At night we walked down, we hung out at the lake, and it was, you know, nice. And even at the community center, we had my son's christening there, and at that time, it was 18 years ago now. At that time, the building was starting to fall apart. So I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of that you have in here. And as Chris and Jamie were talking about, meeting with them, you know, there's got to be a common shared goal. And if there's not, then you're going to be pulling the rope in all different directions. So I think that's one of the key things. And as you said, opening up lines of communication. But getting back to my initial point was, I think there's a lot of overlap with the Park District and also beautification, because, you know, and you're right, there's not a lot of funding in a lot of our stuff that we get done. And if it's something we can look at, we have to. But I really think it's where we can bring a lot of the committees together and try to, you know, set up on beautification, what do we have, 4 people? And here you have 9. And one of the people that wanted to join beautification, she's a little older, and she doesn't really have access. So, I mean, that's the thing, is we got to open it up to the younger residents more and more. I think that would be important. That's just my, and the only, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but 52 and 311, they're state roads. So, I mean, that's going to be an additional hurdle doing anything there, because we have to get their approval for it.
Did I hear you right? That's where you wanted to put a memorial for Dale? Was it right on the corner of 52 and 311, or do you want to put it by the Veterans Memorial?
We want to just do a dedication. It was actually his idea.
Right, so it's not because you had, in the picture reference, it wasn't from Lake Carmel, but you had like a stone with a plaque on it on that picture, and I couldn't see what the plaque was saying.
That's why we also want to do a plaque, yes.
Personally, from the park's perspective, I think that would be better somewhere along the walking path, because you're not going to read it or see it driving through on a car. Somewhere where people could stop for a second and get a chance to glance at it. I think it's a great idea. Dale's a wonderful person, and he's going to be greatly missed in our community. But somewhere like that where people would actually be able to stop for a minute and read it.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
All right. Do we want to go back to the community center?
Sure,
Okay. Do you want to take care of that?
if I can find it. Did you change my numbers?
Yep,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
I ask the board to approve a resolution appointing members to the Lake Carmel Community Center Board of Directors. Whereas the Town of Kent Lake Carmel Community Center Board of Directors, the LCCCBD, is currently vacant, and Angela Verity, Robert Schwartz, Patricia Raver, and Janice Capra have expressed interest in being appointed as directors. And whereas the Town Board of the Town of Kent wishes to appoint Angela Verity, Robert Schwartz, Patricia Raver, and Janice Capra, and wishes to advertise to fill the remaining vacancies on the LCCCBD. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby appoints Angela Verity for a 3-year term, Robert Schwartz for a 5-year term, Patricia Raver for a 3-year term, and Janice Capra for a 5-year term as directors on the Lake Carmel, on the LCCCBD, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes its Town Clerk, Yolanda D. Capelli, to advertise for applications for remaining vacancies on the LCCCBD. I make this motion.
For the remaining 3 vacancies.
For the remaining 3 vacancies. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Are the 4 members that you're bringing on tonight with 2 different terms, is that a continuation of their term, or is it starting a new term now?
It's starting a new term now. We haven't appointed them in 3 years.
Okay. And what will the
They're all expired, right, Lana?
Yes.
Yes.
what will the term be, or terms be for the 3 open positions?
5 years from,
Well, we can alternate them 5-3, 5-3 as we get applications in. We'll just keep doing it that way. That way they're staggered.
okay. Our next item on the agenda is for Lake Carmel Park District. We have a resignation and a hire for a seasonal worker. Cody Hickok, who was working as a seasonal park maintenance worker, resigned, and we are looking to hire Abilo Breno Ceravo Rigo as a seasonal park maintenance worker at a rate of $13.20 per hour. I ask the board that we approve this.
What am I reading right here? Something's not right there.
Supervisor Fucci.
I have no idea. He's not,
Is that
no.
a stray sentence?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just a
It says-
seasonal worker. right?
Yeah, and he'd be retiring as sanitation supervising crew chief. He was never the supervisor. So just take that out.
They were just taking out
I
that.
think it just ends
And you
with
take
Lake
out the
Carmel Park
as of
District.
April 30th, 2020.
I think it just ends at,
District.
for the Lake Carmel Park District.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the end.
Okay.
All right, now,
It looks like the rest of it's right.
yep. Okay, does someone want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it. I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution accepting resignation of seasonal park maintenance worker for the town of Kent. Whereas by email date, May 13th, 2022, Heidi Link and Lake Carmel District Park Clerk has informed the town that Cody Hickok has resigned as a seasonal park maintenance worker for the Lake Carmel Park District. Whereas by affirmated email, Mrs. Link also informed the town board that crew chief Frank Sattini had recommended the hiring of Albano Beniro Cerrera Rigo to fill the vacant position of seasonal park maintenance worker at the rate of $13.20, bless you, per hour. And whereas the town board wishes to accept the resignation of Mr. Hickok and accept the recommendation of Mr. Sabatini and hire Mr. Rigo to fill the vacant position of seasonal park maintenance worker. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board accepts the resignation of Cody Hickok as seasonal park maintenance worker, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes the hiring of Albano Beniro Cervera Rigo as seasonal park maintenance worker for the Lake Carmel Park District at an hourly rate of $13.20 an hour. I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You know, I
That was
always
hard.
got the hard names last time.
That was a,
That was a.
how do you,
mouthful.
am I, no, I'm not pronouncing
Billy,
it.
I don't,
Abilio, Brino, Sarah, Eva, Rigo. I don't know.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll have to ask.
I hope he has a
I'll
nickname.
ask him.
Okay.
Abby.
Our next item on the agenda is a discussion for fees for the town code violations. Councilman Ruthven and Councilwoman Campbell wanted to discuss this tonight, so I will leave it to both of you.
Ann, you want to go with it?
All right, well, I think we were responding to an email discussion that came from the planning board. I believe that our town code sets minimum fees for violations, code violations, but does not set the actual fees, and I think there's a rationale for that, so that we don't have to enact a law every time we change the fees. But there was also a sense that perhaps the fees that we have may be out of date or might not have enough tooth to them to really prevent violations, especially if we have, a project going underway where, let's say there's plenty of financing available to pay fees to the town and continue to engage in violations. So I think we're at the very beginning phase of this, of wanting just to inquire about whether the fees we have are in line with what other municipalities have, and whether we should take a look at bringing those up, getting the appropriate parties involved in that conversation.
To comment on it a little further, we were talking that it'd be a good time to review what all our town, violation fees are at this point, and then we can, interact with our code enforcement officer and whoever else we may need to talk to, and possibly even ask the some input from the planning board consultants that work for other towns that may be able to gather fee information from other towns also, and just start reviewing everything and seeing if they have to be updated or made to have a little more teeth, as Ann said, because the possibility is somebody could just keep paying the fee and keep doing the violation because the fee doesn't mean anything to them related to the violation. So I thought it was a fantastic idea when Ann started talking to me about it, and I said it was well worth bringing in front of the board for discussion tonight to see if the rest of the board is interested in looking into this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything at this point other
No,
than start
just-
gathering information and discuss it.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Our next item is the New York State Route 311 sidewalk easement agreement. I'm gonna give this to Nancy.
Sure. This has been before the town board once before. Several months ago, we received a proposed easement agreement where they would give the town an easement to install sidewalks, but in the previous agreement, the town was required to maintain them, and the board was not in favor of that, so we sent it back to the applicant, which has an address at 164 Route 311, and the easement's now been revised so that the town has the right to install and install the sidewalks, but the grantor is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk, which includes making sure it's clear of debris and snow and ice removal and that sort of thing. So we recommend that you authorize the supervisor to sign this agreement.
So, I'm the one that had an issue with this. And I'm reading this, and it says, for the installation and maintenance of the sidewalk still.
But then if you look at the next one, it says.
Believes the construction and maintenance of the sidewalk would be for public purpose.
In the event that the said sidewalk is constructed or reconstructed as described herein, grantor, its successors and/or assigns shall be responsible for all day-to-day maintenance of the sidewalk and any curbs, specifically including but not limited to maintaining a level surface, snow and ice removal, sweeping and keeping the sidewalk free from debris or obstructions. Grantor, its successors, and/or assigns agrees to indemnify and hold harmless grantee, its successors and or assigns for and from injuries.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but just out of clarification, you're reading that out of this easement document and not the resolution?
Oh, you were referring to the resolution?
Resolution says it's for the town of Kent for installation and maintenance of the sidewalk. Can we strike maintenance?
Yeah.
All right, that's all I was questioning.
Talking about the agreement.
No.
Okay, so we're just changing it in
We're
the,
just
Often what people go back to are these resolutions. They don't always look at the backup.
The second line of it too, Nancy? Take out and maintenance on the second whereas? You have the resolution there?
Paragraph one,
yeah,
line
so
three.
just believes the
Yeah.
construction of a sidewalk.
And maintenance, we're gonna take that out, so in the first paragraph and in the second,
I think that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is everyone good with that?
I'll read it. I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing town supervisor to sign an easement. Whereas in connection with the Town of Kent Planning Board approval, Richard Verabach has offered a 10-foot wide sidewalk easement to the Town of Kent for installation of sidewalk along a portion of New York State Route 311. The easement, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Kent believes that the construction of a sidewalk would be for public purpose and in the public interest of the residents of the Town of Kent, and therefore wishes to accept the easement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby deems the acquisition of the rights as outlined in the 10-foot wide sidewalk easement in favor of the Town of Kent to be for public purpose and in the public interest, and authorizes and directs the supervisor to execute the easement and all other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, consistent with the terms hereof and in such form as is satisfactory to the town supervisor and town attorney. I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to add an item for discussion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. So, Councilwoman Campbell and I had an opportunity to meet, or to have, what was it, a telephone conversation, correct? With the grants writer and our engineer that's working on a couple projects, John Watson from Inside Engineering. And we discussed, what are we calling this, Ann?
Well, you could call it Safe Streets or Complete Streets.
Yeah.
The grantor that we're thinking about is the Transportation Alternatives Grant.
So basically what he's gonna do is do a review of the town and come up with a plan for us that would allow for like bicycle corridors or pedestrian corridors on some of our streets that are appropriate to have that type of thing in the town of Kent, be it sidewalks from Lake Carmel up through to the, ShopRite where the sidewalks aren't coming out of Carmel, or the 311 corridor where we just approved a possible sidewalk for the future tonight. Certainly the walking path around Lake Carmel came into the discussion, and I even mentioned possibly going down the overflow corridor from Lake Carmel to Ryan's Park, because the town of Kent owns that stream corridor, so you'd be able to walk from Lake Carmel to Ryan's Park without walking on the streets. So basically what we're doing is putting a proposal together to apply for grant money to see if we could, get the engineering type of work done on this. And if I said that wrong, Ann, please correct me.
That's right. The concept is to try to find points of interest that can be interconnected. Some of it could perhaps be over to Eustis Park, out Farmers Mills, definitely around Lake Carmel, the walking path, all of that would be included, basically to apply for the funding, which could be fairly high value. I mean, I think we're looking in the $1 or more millions of dollars here.
Millions of dollars, they said. These grants for this type of thing are big money grants.
Yeah, we have to have a concept plan first. And to develop that is going to cost some money. We're going to have to do the engineering, and I think it's going to involve consultation with our chief about safety, with highway, and the engineering firm seems to have that kind of expertise to be able to come up with a plan. We're not sure what that's going to cost. The first step would be to seek an estimate for the plan to be developed. And then we would have to go ahead and fund that. And then we could apply for the grant.
So that's the initial concepts right now. We wanted to get it out there in the public, let everybody know what we're doing, so it kind of ties into some things that were already mentioned here tonight. And I think it's important that we keep you all informed of some of the avenues we're pursuing. Thank
May I
you.
also say a bit about the Lake Carmel Dam grant?
Sure, yeah.
Just want to mention, I'm not sure how we want to disseminate this, but we are seeking funding through congressional appropriation through the office of Sean Patrick Maloney. And he actually has an infrastructure quiz or questionnaire available where people can give commentary about where infrastructure funds should go. I'd like to find a way to make that link available to the public so that individuals in Lake Carmel who would like to see the dam get funded could actually submit that comment. And I think we've done some letters of support, but I think having the community express their strong need to have this dam repaired would perhaps help to bring the funding our way. So we're going to try to make that available.
Why don't we put the link on the town Facebook page, and we can get Walt to put it on, I'm sure, the Lake Carmel Facebook page, website.
You know, Lake Carmel has that constant contact, which.
Yes, we
really-
can send it out on Constant Contact. Recreation can send it out on their Constant Contact as well.
And maybe we can get it funded. It's been a need since the 1980s, right?
Yes.
The congressman actually visited the dam in 2013. I think he's aware of it. And I think this is a golden opportunity because there's a lot of infrastructure funding coming through right now. We just have to find out how to get it sent our way. So thank you for that.
You ready?
You're up.
Vouchers. I ask the board to approve the following vouchers that were over the threshold for the month of May. Cat Financial, $6,417.22 for a highway loader payment. I was gonna say permit, I go, that doesn't make any sense. Semco Water, $5,567.41 for Water District Number 1. Semco Water, $2,686.44 for Water District Number 2. Semco Water, $764.50 for the Kent Town Center. State Comptroller, $37,870 for Justice Court Fund. Custom Bandage Inc., $4,111.45 for municipal repairs. Employee Service LLC, $3,200 for EAP services. Kevin P. Irwin, $4,284 for traffic court tickets. Labella Associates, $3,800 Lake Carmel Community Center evaluation. There it is. We need it in our hand. That's what I was asking about the other day. Labella Associates, $2,550 for Old Town Hall evaluation. Magnified LLC, $3,552.16 for telephones. Magnified LLC, $3,703.50 for May phones. Metal Building Restoration, $330,000 for the highway new lean-to building that they're putting up. Nicomco, $2,846 for Police Department Communications. NICEAG, $784.30 for Ryan Park Electric. NICEAG, $2,355.08 for electric. Patrick Roncallo, $2,400 for cemetery maintenance. Sorry, thought I turned that off. PFK O'Connor Davies, $27,525 for accountant services. Purchase Power, $3,000 for postage refill. Royal Carding Service, $5,334.37 for recycling center. Springbrook Holding Company, $6,636.82 for finance maintenance. Thale Industries Incorporated, $9,664.60 for three-quarter stone. Ask the board to approve the following vouchers as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I have a couple announcements. On Saturday, June 11th, we are doing our e-waste day drop-off in partnership with the town of Carmel. It will be held here at the Town of Kent Town Hall between 9 and 12. You can recycle anything with a plug: laptops, fax machines, stereos, radios, televisions, monitors, batteries, battery backups, monitor. Let's see what else we got here. Speakers, microwaves, dehumidifiers, basically anything. So that is Saturday, June 11th from 9 to 12. On June 11th, there also is a garden tour going on, and it's with the Brewster Carmel Garden Club. Gardens open 10 to 4. Tickets are $20 advance and $25 the day of the tour. You can go to www.brewstercarmelgardenclub.org for more information. And then on Saturday, June 25th, we have the Lake Carmel Park District Annual Fishing Derby. The rain date is Sunday, June 26th. Registration begins at 8:30 at Beach 4. That is all I have for announcements. Anyone else have any announcements?
Just one more time, we're getting toward the end here for hiring lifeguards for Lake Carmel. We're running out of time. So get your neighbors' kids out of the house, get your grandchildren out of the house, get your own kids out of the house, and get them to sign up for the lifeguarding course and come work for us at Lake Carmel this summer.
And also, we have the Memorial Day service on May 29th at 9:30. Right?
Yep.
That's at the...
at the Veterans Memorial.
I just got a couple of things real quick. Chief Owens wasn't able to be here last board meeting, so we put off thanking him and his department for the Kent Cleanup Day help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also, this past weekend, we had Spring Fest out here. I know I saw Simon out there. I saw Ann. I didn't say hello to you, I'm sorry. But Kent PD had a booth set up. There were vendors, there was music. I almost got Chief Owens to go up and sing. I was very happy with the turnout from the residents and a lot of the visitors. And so a big shout out to the Kent Recreation Department and James Hoffman and his staff. And also on June 3rd, the keynote speaker at the Let's Talk Lakes Conference over at Sedgwood, Ann Campbell, will be out there. And that is on the town website, I believe, correct?
I don't know if it's been posted.
It has been
It's on
posted.
there.
It's on there. Okay.
I don't know about keynote. I'm one of
Keynote,
many.
you're like the big cheese.
Is that any public comment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will see everyone June 7th.